Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindi News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy for the date 30th of May 2021. These are the list of news articles taken for today's discussion. They have been provided along with the page numbers of these articles in different editions of Hindi newspaper. Now let us start our analysis with this first news article, which talks about damage to Sundarbans. As we know, recently India witnessed two back-to-back cyclones, and among them, Yas cyclone made landfall in Odisha. That is, it crossed over to land in Odisha. And because of this, the eastern states of West Bengal and Jharkhand were also severely affected. And this is what has also affected the Sundarbans. So in this regard, let us see about Sundarbans and the threats to it. See, Sundarbans is located in West Bengal. It lies on the southeast of Kolkata and it borders the Bay of Bengal. It is situated in the swampy delta of the river Ganga, river Brahmaputra and river Meghna. Actually, Sundarbans is mainly located at the confluence of Ganga and Brahmaputra basin in between India and Bangladesh. That is, it spreads over India and Bangladesh and it extends over a vast area of about 9,630 square kilometers. And in India alone, it spans a vast area covering about 4,200 square kilometers. So from this, we can say that the major part of Sundarbans lies in Bangladesh only. Now, next note that Sundarbans is bounded by the river Hooghly on the west. Then it is bounded on the east by Ichamati, Kalindi, Raimangal rivers. And on the north, it is bounded by Dampier-Hodges line. And to its south lies the Bay of Bengal. Now, the Sundarbans consists of mangrove forests, swamps, estuaries, river canals, and forested islands. And that is why Sundarbans is very important from ecological perspective. And note that there are more than 100 islands of various shapes and sizes, where around 50% of them are inhabited. Now, it also has faunal and floral diversity. It houses many rare and endangered animals, including aquatic mammals, tigers, birds, and reptiles. Mainly note that the tangled mass of the roots of mangrove trees, these roots provide safe homes for a large number of species, like from fish to shrimp. And most importantly, Sundarbans is home to nearly 200 Royal Bengal tigers. Here you should note that Sundarbans is the only mangrove forest in the world which is home of tigers. Other than this, more than 170 bird species are known to inhabit these mangrove forests. Now, coming to its flora, note that Sundarbans is the largest single block of tidal halophytic mangrove forests in the world. Here, halophytic means salt tolerant. Apart from this, Sundarbans is also the world's largest deltaic mangrove forests. Now, the mangrove forests in the Sundarbans are characterized by Heratheria forms. It is also known as Heratheria minor. This is an evergreen mangrove tree species, and this species is valued for its timber. Now, the species is found abundantly in the freshwater zones of Sundarbans, and this is one of the reasons why the swamp forest is known as Sundarbans, because locally the species is known as Sundari. Then another reason given for the name Sundarban is that because it is a beautiful forest, where Sundar means beautiful and Ban means forest. Now, apart from its biodiversity, Sundarbans also serves as a crucial protective barrier against the floods for the inhabitants in and around Kolkata. These floods result from the cyclones, and we know that cyclones are a regular occurrence in the region. Then the mangroves in the Sundarbans also reduce the fury of cyclonic storms, and it prevents the erosion that is caused by tidal action. Now, apart from this, the islands are also of greater economic importance because the islands in the Sundarbans act as a storm barrier, they act as shore stabilizers, they provide nutrient and sediment trap, and they are a source of timber and natural resources, and they also support a wide variety of aquatic and terrestrial organisms. So the islands of Sundarbans are an excellent example of the ecological process of monsoon rain flooding, delta formation, tidal influence, and plant colonization. Now, finally, Sundarbans is also important because it represents a society that is primarily agricultural. So millions of people depend on Sundarban ecosystem for their livelihood. They sustain their livelihood through fishing, through collection of honey, and also through collection of fuel wood or timber. Now, because of all these ecological importance and its economic importance, part of the Sundarban was declared as a reserve forest in the year 1978, and subsequently it was also declared as a tiger reserve. Now, this total area of reserve forest is around 2,500 square kilometers, and it includes around 1,600 square kilometers of land, and then the remaining part is water body. Now, within this land area, around 1,300 square kilometers is designated as core area, and this core area is declared as the national park by the Government of India in the year 1984. Now, we saw the ecological importance of this area, and based on this, the Sundarbans National Park has been designated by the UNESCO as a Natural World Heritage Site in the year 1987. Now, further protection is also provided to Sundarbans because subsequently in 1989, Government of India constituted the Sundarban Biosphere Reserve. So, Sundarbans is a Biosphere Reserve of India. This also received the recognition of UNESCO under its Man in Biosphere program. So, Sundarban is a Biosphere Reserve of India and it is also a Global Biosphere Reserve under UNESCO. So, now what are the threats posed to Sundarbans? See, one of the threats is climate change because the effects of climate change can be directly seen in Sundarbans. And due to that, Sundarbans also faces several challenges. See, Sundarbans is an area that is cyclone prone, as we saw already. It is monsoonal and it is also low lying. Now, as a result of these characteristics, when changes in climate happen, it significantly impacts the area, it impacts the flora, fauna, and also the population living within it. So one of the main impacts of climate change is the rising sea levels. Now, due to this, the islands are disappearing. A decade ago itself, that is in 2010 itself, it was observed that due to the rising sea levels, the New Moor Island or the South Talpati Island disappeared. And based on this fact, scientists already predicted that the other low-lying islands in the region could also vanish if the sea levels continue to rise. So, based on the subsequent studies were conducted in the following years, and in that it was found that there is a change in size and shape of Goramara Island and Lohachara Islands. These are situated on the Hooghly River. In these islands, few dozen houses and acres of land go underwater every year. So, this has forced thousands of inhabitants of these islands to leave the islands, and now they have become environmental refugees. Then, apart from this, another threat is the increase in salinity in the water and soil. This severely threatens the health of mangrove forests and it threatens the quality of soil and crops. Additionally, there have been also serious disturbances to the hydrological parameters and there is change in fishing patterns. So, all these have affected the fishermen also. Then, apart from this, the frequent cyclones and erratic monsoon raining pattern, these are also damaging the ecology and humanity of Sundarbans. So, in this way, the recent cyclone, that is the Yas cyclone, has also caused serious damages to Sundarbans. How? Because cyclones cause strong winds and breached embankments. Now, these breached embankments lead to ingress of seawater. That is, seawater gets in. And this in turn leads to large areas being flooded. And due to the Yas cyclone, the Goramara Island is fully inundated. And this has led to scarcity of drinking water in many of the islands, because now the water resources are inundated by the seawater. Now, this inundation or flooding not only destroys the crops, but it also destroys the land because land cannot be cultivated due to the increased salinity. So, these are some of the threats and challenges faced by the Sundarbans in the recent times, and also because of the cyclones that happen in the region frequently. So, in this regard, the news article provides a suggestion by the experts, and this suggestion is adopting a long-term planning, and such a planning should contain strategies that will minimize the impact of climate change, and it will also lead to formulation of disaster management that is suited to the region. So, these are some of the points that you should know about Sundarbans and the threats. Now, let's move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this snippet news article from the Science page, which talks about dark filaments. See, the news is that a new map has been published of dark matter present in the local sheet. See, this term local sheet is nothing but the extragalactic regions around the Milky Way and other neighborhood galaxies. So basically, now the scientists have mapped the region around the Milky Way, and this has exposed more components about the dark matter. So these findings are based on the dark matter only, and that is why today we will see about dark matter. See, this dark matter is a very interesting concept. It turns out that roughly 68% of the universe is dark energy and 27% is made up of dark matter, and the rest or the remaining, it adds up to less than 5% of the universe, and this remaining part only includes everything on Earth, everything ever observed with all our instruments, and all normal matter. So that means we come in this 5% of the universe only. Now in this, our human eye along with technological aid can only see certain areas in the universe. Now these areas which we can see, they mostly lie in visible light, or they lie in infrared radiation or in the ultraviolet spectrum. But the rest are not visible to us even with the aid of technology. Now this is what dark matter is. So actually we don't know what is dark matter. What it contains in it is still a mystery to the scientists. In many ways, scientists know more about what dark matter is not than what it actually is. So based on this, they speculate that dark matter possibly could be brown dwarfs. See here, brown dwarf means failed stars, that is, they never ignited as they lacked the mass which is needed to start burning. Now they also speculate that dark matter could be white dwarfs. These white dwarfs are the remnants of cores of dead small to medium sized stars. Then they speculate that the dark matter could be neutron stars or black holes, that is, as you know, these are the remnants of large stars after they explode. And they even speculate that dark matter may not be made up of the matter we are familiar with at all. So they say that the matter that makes up dark matter could be different. It may be filled with particles, which is predicted by theory, but the scientists are yet to observe these particles. So that means all these speculations which we just saw are just mere speculations or ideas with no concrete proofs yet. Now, since scientists cannot see dark matter directly, they have found other ways to investigate it. One of the ways which scientists use to indirectly study dark matter is the gravitational lensing. So, what is this gravitational lensing? It is a way to look into the universe. We know gravitational force, it pulls objects towards it. Now, you consider a massive object. Now, the gravitational field around this massive object will also be tremendous because the object is massive. And such massive objects can bend the light that is passing in their vicinity. That is the light that is passing near them. So based on this, scientists say that this amount of bending helps them to have a look at the massiveness of the objects. So based on this, they think that they can also study dark matter. Now coming to dark matter, in addition to these indirect ways, scientists at NASA think that they also have a direct way to detect dark matter by using the Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope. They're saying this because dark matter has a lot of gamma rays releasing processes. So in short, we can only have one good fact about dark matter, which is that it can be classified into three main categories. And these three categories are cold, warm, and hot. Now these categories have no conjunction or concurrence with the actual temperatures. Instead, these categories describe the rate at which the particles randomly move within the universe before slowing down. Now, such a movement of particles only leads to the expansion of the universe as a whole. So, based on the particles' movement, scientists have classified dark matter into cold, warm, and hot. So, that is all you need to know about dark matter as of now. Now, let us move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on these news articles. So, recently there is a controversy. Next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this. Just two strange new food sources modern humans. So that is all about this discussion. Now let us move on to the next one. Our next discussion is based on this FAQ article, which is regarding the case law is the life insurance. Now let us move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this news article, which talks about the genocide towards Our next discussion is based on this news article from the Science and Tech page. This news article reports about a study which highlights the decline of forest bird species in Western Himalayas. See, Western Himalayas is also known as Punjab Himalayas. It is also regionally known as Kashmir and Himachal Himalayas. Now, these Western Himalayas refers to the westernmost section of the vast Himalayan mountain range, and it is spread across the states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. Now, the study which we are talking about was undertaken in the temperate forests of the state of Uttarakhand because these forests house a large number of endemic bird species. As you know, endemic species means those species exist only in one geographical region, and their habitat is also restricted to a particular area due to the factors like climate change, urban developments, etc. Now, as per the findings of the study, the abundance of important birds in Western Himalayas is facing a decline due to the invasion caused by non-native species and invasive species, and also the
ஏப்பா பொண்ணு
எந்த வேலை வெட்டிக்கும் போறதில்ல, சும்மா தான் ஊரை சுத்திட்டு இருக்கிறாரு. கட்டிங் போடாம மாப்பிள்ளைக்கு நைட்டு தூக்கமே வராதான்.
அப்படியா?
ஓகேப்பா, எனக்கு மாப்பிள்ளைய பிடிச்சிருக்கு. மிஸ் பண்ணாம சீக்கிரம் பேசி முடிங்க.
என்ன பிடிச்சிருக்கா? ஐயோ, இங்க என்னையா நடக்குது? யாராச்சும் சொல்லி தொலைங்கயா.
இந்த காலத்துல எந்த பொண்ணுங்க தம்பி நல்ல பையனை லவ் பண்றாங்க? எந்த வேலை வெட்டிக்கும் போ
species, and also the decline is caused by land use changes. See, land use change refers to the process by which human activities transform the natural landscape. And here you need to understand the difference between non-native and invasive species, and note that both are different. Non-native species are the organisms that do not occur naturally in an area, but they are introduced as a result of deliberate or accidental human activity. These non-native species simply exist where they have not naturally occurred, and they may not hinder or prevent the survival of others within the ecosystem. Now, among these non-native species itself, there are some species which can cause damage, and such species are called as invasive species. In simple terms, we can say that invasive species are also non-native species, but they are capable of causing economic harm or environmental harm or even harm to human health. Now, such invasive species have got the potential to reduce the ecosystem's biodiversity, and they can cause economic harm to people who depend on the ecosystem's biological resources. And these invasive species also prevent the native species from obtaining food, living space, and other resources that is needed for their survival. And such invasive species also serve as disease vectors that spread parasites and pathogens, which may further disrupt the invaded areas. So, due to these species, it was found that the bird species in the Western Himalayas have been affected. So, this was the one of the important findings of this study. Now, there was another study conducted in the Western Himalayan region, and it focused on the role played by the woodpeckers in a biodiversity. In the study, it was found that woodpeckers play an important role as an indicator of bird diversity. As per the findings, woodpeckers enhance the diversity in the regions, or in other words, a strong population of woodpeckers at a site denotes a rich population of other bird species. This is because the cavities which are made by woodpeckers on trees are also used by other variety of birds to build their nests. So this is also one of the important finding that we should know. So that is all about this news article. So with this, we have come to the end of news articles discussion session. Now let us take up the practice question.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome back to the different editions. Now let us take up this editorial. Good evening, aspirants. Welcome back to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. These are the list of news articles.
A very good evening, everyone. We have a very small announcement to make. Our Shankar New Delhi branch, and it will begin at 5 p.m. and the session is aimed at giving you a clear path and to take you in the right direction of the mains preparation, and it will also emphasize on the importance of the mains in the next 60 days. And attending the session would help you to decide on what to prepare, how to prepare, and to improve your prospects in the mains 2021. So with this, let's move on to our analysis. Here are the list of news articles chosen for discussion today. Today we will not be discussing the preliminary questions as we have exhausted the 2020 questions, and we'll take a small break before we resume the discussion on the preliminary questions on the previous years. Now let's move on to the article discussion. Now have a look at this news article. This news article is about Mundeshwari Temple in the discussion. Now let us take up this editorial. See, recently India experienced two cyclonic storms in short span of time, right? One is Cyclone Tauktae, another one is Cyclone Yas. And at this backdrop, the author has written this editorial. Let us go into the details. Here is the syllabus pertaining to this subject. Now, see, according to the author, these cyclonic storms are testing India's capacity to withstand multiple near simultaneous shocks. So in this context, let us learn about tropical cyclones first. See, tropical cyclones are violent storms that originate over the oceans in tropical areas. And the tropical cyclones move over to the coastal areas, bringing about large-scale destruction caused by violent winds, very heavy rainfalls, and storm surges. So these are the three mechanisms by which these storms wreak havoc. And tropical cyclones are one of the most devastating natural calamities. And they are known by different names in different areas. We saw this very recently in one of the previous discussion. So have a note on this. Now, let us see about the conditions that are favorable for the formation and intensification of tropical storms. The first one is large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius. Okay, so any open ocean is a favorable condition in the tropical area, right? Now, the presence of Coriolis force, of course, anything away from the equator, small variation in the vertical wind speed, and the next is a pre-existing weak low pressure area or a low level cyclonic circulation is a favorable condition. And apart from that, upper air divergence above the sea level system is another important prerequisite, so which is very interlinked with the previous point. And the energy that intensifies the storm comes from the condensation process in the towering cumulonimbus clouds which surrounds the storm. With continuous supply of moisture from the sea, the storm is further strengthened. Okay, and on reaching the land, the moisture supply is cut off, right? So the storm also dissipates. And the place where the tropical cyclone crosses the coast is called the landfall of the cyclone. Now have a look at this figure. Okay, a mature tropical cyclone is characterized by a strong spiraling circulation wind around the center. See, this center is called the eye, and the diameter of the circulating system can vary between 150 to 250 kilometers. And if you see, the eye is the region of calm with subsiding air. That is, there is very minimal movement of winds in this region, and it's relatively very calm. And comes the eye's wall. Around the eye is the eye wall, where there is a strong spiraling ascent of the wind. That is, the wind is moving upward to greater heights, reaching the tropopause. So that is the level of wind movement up to tropopause, right? And the wind reaches maximum velocity in the eye walls. The velocity could be as high as 250 km per hour. And in this area, torrential rains occur. And from the eye wall, rain bands may radiate, and the trains of cumulonimbus clouds may drift into the outer region. Imagine in a three-dimensional way. Okay, and the diameter of the storm over the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, and Indian Ocean is generally between 600 to 1200 km. See, this diameter can vary from area to area across across the globe. Okay, and the system in Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, they all move very slowly at 300 to 500 km per day. And the cyclone creates storm surges as well, and they inundate the coastal lowlands, and the storm peters out on the land. And this inundation storm surges is also a reason for all the losses caused by the storms. Now coming back to the editorial, the Yas cyclone, which was categorized as very severe cyclonic storm, wreaked havoc along the eastern coast of India. All right, and Yas was accompanied with a severe tornado and rain which affected the Odisha coast areas significantly. Though the loss of lives were very limited thanks to the preparatory mass evacuation and all, but a lot of houses and properties were lost, so which has an economic impact on the coastal community, right? And also this very severe cyclonic storm caused huge damages to the state of West Bengal and Jharkhand as well. See, the coastal states facing Bay of Bengal have always been in the path of severe cyclones. So this is not something new. But the frequency and the strength of Bay of Bengal cyclones have increased significantly in the recent years. Experts attribute it to climate change. But this has increased the vulnerability of the states, whatever may be the reason. And moreover, India is facing the second wave of corona pandemic. And this has, together with the cyclone, aggravated the misery. And the author believes it is high time for a government to take necessary steps to improve the resilience of our coastal states. See, according to the author, governments are more sensitive to loss of life today and are raising the capacity of the disaster response force, which is a very commendable step. But that alone is not enough. Okay, the author believes much more needs to be done when it comes to protecting assets and creating financial instruments to help people rebuild their lives. What is creating financial instruments? It's more like insurance, insuring the coastal community or coastal people against the losses. Okay, he stresses this point by citing a report, which is a very good example. See, according to the State of Global Climate 2020 report by the World Meteorological Organization, Cyclone Amphan is the costliest cyclone on record for the northern Indian Ocean in terms of economic losses. And Cyclone Amphan hit West Bengal last year, causing huge loss to life and property. And rough economic losses caused by this cyclone amounts to $14 billion, according to this report. Also, this cyclone displaced about 2.4 million people from their habitats. So you can imagine the amount of burden that it has caused on the coastal people as well as on the government. Also, according to the author, this cyclone has exposed an important issue plaguing the disaster management. It showed that there is a heavy corruption in the distribution of relief for the affected people. There was this issue flaring up also, if at all you remember. So the benefits don't reach the victims of the cyclone. So what can be done? See, the author suggests that the state governments may insure people against the losses from catastrophes using a system of documentation. All right, and these documentation and reliefs and rehabilitation measures should be made non-discretionary. That is, it should be made mandatory, right? And citizens should be made a part of a social insurance model, thereby spreading the cost of risk of disasters across the population. Okay, and the author also suggests the rebuilding of habitations through green technology to minimize the impact of climate change on the tropical cyclones. And the author finally concludes by saying that the management of cyclone is the need of the hour, otherwise it will damage the years of economic progress that has been achieved. So that is the article in total. So we saw what is a cyclonic storm in this discussion, and apart from that we saw author's views on what can be done in the future to minimize the effects of these cyclonic storms on the lives of the people. So with this information, let's move to the next segment of the discussion. Now let us take up this article. It is about the Central Vista Redevelopment Project. So fiscal deficit was nearly. All right. Now let us look at this news article, which is about recent developments on the Mekadetu issue. So the most successful public health intervention and prevention. It has led to elimination and control of a lot of disease. For example, before vaccines, many became severely ill and died from infectious disease such as smallpox, polio. Is the lack of
7th May 2021. The list of news articles for today's The first topic for today's discussion is ED, CBI, and also about the editorial talks about the issues such as underfinancing of different programs under Ministry of Culture. In this context, we will be discussing the important issues highlighted by the author and the need to revive the National Mission on Culture.
Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. These are the news articles chosen for today's discussion.
A very good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy for the date 25th May 2021. Discussion. Our next discussion is based on this news article. It talks about the protests that are happening in the Union Territory of Lakshadweep. Now, these protests are happening for last few days, and it is happening due to a large number of administrative reforms that have taken place in the Union Territory recently. These administrative reforms were announced by the island's administrator, Mr. Praful Patel. See, as you know, a Union Territory is administered by the President through an administrator who is appointed by the President. And this administrator is given certain designations, like the administrator is given the designation of Lieutenant Governor in case of Delhi and Puducherry. And in case of Lakshadweep, the administrator is called as administrator only. So these reforms have been announced by the island's administrator, Praful Patel. Now, currently, the protests for these reforms have got widespread support, and the protests are intensifying under the Save Lakshadweep campaign. So in this context, let us first discuss about the Lakshadweep Islands, its history, and the ongoing developments. The syllabus relevant to this discussion is given here for your reference. See, as you know, Lakshadweep Islands group lies close to the Malabar coast of Kerala in the Arabian Sea. This group of islands is composed of small coral islands, and earlier they were all known as Lakshadweep, Minicoy, and Amindiv. But in 1973 only, these were renamed as Lakshadweep. Now, in Malayalam and Sanskrit, Lakshadweep means 100,000 islands. And note that Lakshadweep is India's smallest union territory. It is an archipelago which consists of 36 islands with an area of 32 square kilometers. And it is also a uni-district union territory. That is, it has only one district. And this union territory is composed of 12 atolls, 3 reefs, 5 submerged banks, and 10 inhabited islands. Now, the capital of this union territory is Kavaratti, which is also the principal town of Lakshadweep. So, what about the history of Lakshadweep Islands? See, the local traditions in these islands attribute to the period of Cheraman Perumal, who was the last king of Kerala. At that period, first settlements on these islands began. It is believed that the king converted to Islam on the instructions of some Arab merchants, and he went for Mecca. Now, for searching the king, several search parties went after him, and they started small settlements in the islands of Amini, Kavaratti, Androt, and Kalpeni. And later, when Portuguese arrived in India, they made Lakshadweep as important place for seafarers. Most importantly, at that time, this finely spun coir was much needed for these ships. So the Portuguese started looting the island vessels, and it is said that they even forcibly landed at the Amini Island to procure coir sometime in the early 16th century. But the people killed all these invaders by poisoning, and thereby they also ended the Portuguese invasion in their islands. But after this, the entire island population converted to Islam. But even then, the sovereignty of the islands remained in the hands of a Hindu Raja of Chirakkal in Kerala for some years. Now, from the hands of the Chirakkal Raja, the administration of the island was passed on to the Muslim house of Arakkal of Cannanore, and this happened around the middle of 16th century. And later, some of the islands even came under the reign of Tipu Sultan. But the island was annexed to the British East India Company after the Battle of Seringapattam or the Srirangapatnam in the year 1799. And from then, it was administered by the British East India Company from Mangalore. So after independence, this group of islands was made into a union territory in the year 1956. And later, it was given the name of Lakshadweep in 1973. So now, what is the recent issue? See, the heart of the problem of these issues is the draft Lakshadweep Development Authority Regulation of 2021. Now, this regulation gives the administrator certain powers for town planning or any developmental activity. And these powers include removal or relocation of islanders from their property also. So this has created widespread protests. Along with this, there is also another controversy, which is over the Prevention of Antisocial Activities Act. It was introduced in the Union Territory in January 2021. Now, this act empowers the government to detain a person without any public disclosure for a period of up to 1 year. So people are also not happy with this legislation. And the next controversy is regarding a draft Lakshadweep Animal Preservation Bill. This bill provides for a ban on the sale of beef. So this bill is also facing criticism in the Union Territory. Then there is also another reform which is under question. That is the draft Lakshadweep Panchayat Regulation of 2021. As per this regulation, no person shall be a member of a Gram Panchayat, or they cannot continue as a member of a Gram Panchayat if they have more than 2 children. So we can see that these legislations are affecting the lives of the people and their normal administration. And these issues gain prominence when a Kerala Rajya Sabha MP wrote a letter to the President of India and requested the President to urgently call back the Lakshadweep administrator. So let us see what happens next, and we can hope that the island's administration will consider people's voice while enacting the laws from now on. So these are some of the points that you need to know about the recent issues that are ongoing in the Lakshadweep group of islands. We will know more about this in the coming days when we see more news articles. Now let us move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this op-ed article, which talks about child sexual abuse. See, recently a teacher was suspended from a school in Chennai due to sexual misconduct, and this incident has again put the POCSO Act in spotlight. So on this backdrop only, this op-ed article has been written, and the author here talks mainly about the historical child sexual abuse and how the Indian laws are inefficient in dealing with it. So let us now discuss these aspects. The syllabus relevant to this discussion is given here for your reference. See, as you know, the POCSO Act op-ed article. Now let's move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this picture, which depicts a beautiful halo that was witnessed in Bengaluru. See, there is something infinitely healing about the nature, and this first page picture reminds us about that. And this beautiful halo is a refreshing departure from the harrowing and haunting articles about the pandemic. And for those of us who have forgotten what nature looks like since we are in the lockdown, let us take a moment to understand this natural phenomenon from exam perspective. See, this halo was witnessed in Bengaluru, as I said earlier, and this bright rainbow ring around the sun was witnessed for a few minutes on Monday morning. This is a rare optical and atmospheric phenomenon. It is called as 22-degree circular halo. If you see, this halo also occurs around the moon, and if it happens around the moon, it is called as moon ring or winter halo. Previously, before the advent of meteorology, halos formed a part of weather lore because it was used to predict rains in a region. It was believed that if a halo occurs, then within 2 hours since the time of its appearance, it would rain. So in this regard, let us understand the science behind it. See, this phenomenon occurs when the sun's rays or moon's rays get deflected or when they get refracted through the hexagonal ice crystals which are present in the cirrus clouds. You may recollect cirrus clouds from Geography NCERT reading. It is the most common form of clouds. They are thin clouds and they are high-level clouds typically found at heights greater than 20,000 feet, that is around 6,000 meters. These clouds contain millions of tiny crystals, and these crystals act as prisms when light passes through them. So they refract, split, and even reflect the light to give an impression of a circular rainbow ring. And when this is formed at 22 degrees from the sun, it is called as 22 degrees circular halo. So that is all you need to know about this natural phenomenon. Now let us move on to the next discussion. Our next discussion is based on this news article, which mentions that IIT Delhi is going to set up an optics and photon. Our next discussion is based on this news article, which mentions that India all these islands are islands of Lakshadweep, and generally you should know that Minicoy is situated at the southernmost part of Lakshadweep, as you can see in this map. So it should be at the end because we have to arrange this from north to south. So one should be in the end. From this we can easily eliminate options B and D. Now you have 50% chance of correctly attempting this question. Now other common islands are Kavaratti and Agatti. Now here note that Agatti is to the north of Kavaratti. So that means 2 should be before 1. So our correct answer is option A, 4, 3, 2, 1. As you can see here, this is where Chaitlet is, then Agatti, then Kavaratti and Minicoy. Now this next question is based on photonics. It asks, photonics has applications in
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome back to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. These are the list of news articles that we will be discussing today. They are provided along with the page numbers. With these informations in mind, let's move on to the next part of the news discussion. Now look at this article. This article is regarding the volcanic eruption of Mount Nyiragongo in Democratic Republic of Congo. The Indian Army contingent part of the ongoing United Nations peacekeeping mission in Congo assisted the civilians and the United Nations officials during the evacuation. So in this context, let us discuss in detail about volcanoes, its formation and different types. The syllabus covered by this article is highlighted below for your reference. As we know, volcanoes are openings or vents where lava, tephra or small rocks and steam erupt onto the Earth's surface. The vent may be visible as a small bowl-shaped depression at the summit of a cone or shield-shaped mountain. And through a series of cracks within and beneath the volcano, the vent connects to one or more linked storage areas of molten or partially molten rock called magma. You can have a look at the image in order to understand the basic process of magma formation, its movement to the surface and also its eruption. Now let us understand the mechanism behind eruption of volcanoes. See, the molten rock below the surface of the earth that rises in volcanic vents is known as magma. But remember, after it erupts from a volcano, it is called as lava. This magma is made of molten rocks, crystals, and dissolved gas, and the molten rock is made of chemicals, oxygen, silicon, aluminium, iron, manganese, calcium, etc. After cooling, the liquid magma may form crystals of various minerals until it becomes completely solid and forms an igneous or magmatic rock. So, originating many tens of miles beneath the ground, magma is lighter than surrounding solid rock and it is driven towards the Earth's surface by buoyancy as it is lighter than the surrounding rock. So, magma forces its way upward and may ultimately break through the weak areas in the Earth's crust, and if so, an eruption begins, and this is what has happened in Congo now. See, geologists generally group volcanoes into four main kinds. They are cinder cones, composite volcanoes, shield volcanoes, and lava domes. When you take cinder cones, they are the simplest type of volcanoes and they are built from particles and blobs of congealed lava that is ejected from a single vent. Now, as the gas-charged lava is blown violently into the air, it breaks into small fragments that solidify and fall as cinders around the vent to form a circular or oval cone. And most cinder cones have a bowl-shaped crater at the summit. For example, Mauna Kea volcano on the American island of Hawaii is covered with hundreds of cinder cones. Coming to composite volcanoes, they are also called stratovolcanoes, and they are typically steep-sided symmetrical cones of large dimension built of alternating layers of lava flows, volcanic ash, cinders, etc. And examples are Mount Fuji in Japan and Mount Cotopaxi in Ecuador. On talking about shield volcanoes, which is the third type of volcano, they are built almost entirely of fluid lava flows, and flow after flow pours out in all directions from a central summit vent or group of vents, thereby building a broad, gently sloping cone of flat domical shape. And they are built up slowly by the accretion of thousands of highly fluid lava flows called basalt lava that spread widely over great distances. And the Hawaiian Islands are composed of linear chains of these volcanoes, including Kilauea and Mauna Loa on the island of Hawaii, which is two of the world's most active volcanoes. And the last one is volcanic or lava domes. They are formed by relatively small bulbous masses of lava, too viscous to flow any great distance. A dome grows largely by expansion from within, and as it grows, its outer surface cools and hardens, then shatters, spilling loose fragments down its sides. An example for this is the nearly circular Navarapta dome that was formed during the 1912 eruption of Katmai volcano in Alaska. So with this, we've come to the end of this discussion. With these informations in mind, let's move on to the next news discussion. Now, our next discussion is going to be based on taxation.
Good evening, aspirants.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome back to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar. INS Jalashwa has been deployed. So in this context, let us see.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis session by Shankar IAS Academy, dated 22 May 2021. The list of topic for today's discussion is given for your reference, along with the center. See, this article talks about the recently. Let us move to the next part of the discussion. Now, moving to next topic. Monsoon reaches Andaman and Nicobar. See, as the title denotes, the article talks about the findings related to Indian monsoon. So in this light, let us discuss in brief about monsoon. The syllabus covered under this topic discussion is given for your reference. Now let us go back to the article. See, the word monsoon derived from the Arabic word mausim literally means season. Basically, monsoon or seasonal winds that reverse their direction according to change in season. And this is the reason why they are called periodic winds. Coming to Indian monsoon, India has a hot monsoonal climate which is the prevalent climate in South and Southeast Asia. This type of climate in India is the characteristic of regions where the sun during its seasonal movement across the equator produces differential heating between the adjacent latitude belts of the Earth's surface. This happens irrespective of whether that surface is a land or water surface. If you see, the Indian monsoon is the most powerful among the monsoons of the world due to various reasons. Let us see the list of reasons. First one, it has a favorable geographical locations at the southern edge of the Asian continent, and the Tropic of Cancer is passing through the Indian subcontinent. Also know that India is covered by the vast Indian Ocean lying to its south, and the strong land-sea thermal contrast, especially during summer, is another most important reason for the powerful monsoon in Indian subcontinent. Also, because of the presence of Himalayan mountain barriers along its northern boundaries, the Indian monsoon is the most powerful among the monsoons of the world. All these contributes to two different monsoon patterns. Know that they are the northeast monsoon and the southwest monsoons. Our discussion today will primarily focus on the southwest monsoon. First, let us begin with the onset period and the coverage. Also, kindly follow the map as I explain. See, the period of June to September is referred to as the southwest monsoon period in our country. The southwest monsoon period is the principal rainy season for the Indian subcontinent as well. This is because the summer monsoon period is where whole country receives nearly 75% of its rainfall during this period. We so infer that it is the major source of rain for our country, and it plays a major role in our economies. See, southwest monsoon sets in over the extreme southwestern tip of the peninsula by the end of May month. The onset of monsoon is characterized by a sudden spurt of rainfall activity. See, it progresses inland in stages and covers the entire country by the middle of July. And know that the monsoon starts retrieving from the extreme northwest by the beginning of the September month, progressively receding southwards. The notable feature here is that Tamil Nadu that is considered as a rain shadow region as it lies on the eastern side of the Western Ghats. This takes us the question as to why this time of the year, why not the other months doesn't witness any monsoon period. Let us know some important details to understand that. We know that during April month it is a summer season and the sun shines vertically over the Tropic of Cancer, and so the large landmass in the north of Indian Ocean gets intensively heated. This causes the formation of an intense low pressure in the northwestern part of the subcontinent. Know that the pressure in the Indian Ocean in the south of the landmass is high at that same time of the same period, and as the water gets heated slowly, the low pressure cell in the landmass attracts the southeast trade across the equatorial region. This southwest monsoon may thus be seen as the continuation of the southeast trades deflected towards the Indian subcontinent after crossing the equator. Hence, these winds cross the equator between 40° east and 60° east longitudes due to the northward shift of the ITCZ. Now let us quickly refresh what is ITCZ. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, or the ITCZ, is a region that circles the earth near the equator. See, it exists because of the convergence of trade winds. In case of the northern hemisphere, the northeast trade winds converge with southeast trade winds from the southern hemisphere. The point at which the trade wind converge forces the air up into the atmosphere, forming this Intertropical Convergence Zone. Another important feature about ITCZ is that it follows the sun, and in that the position varies seasonally. Also note that the ITCZ moves in the northern hemisphere during the summer season and places itself in the south of the northern hemisphere during the winter season. Therefore, this ITCZ is responsible for the wet and dry seasons in the tropics. And note that it is over the Indian subcontinent that the northward fluctuations is highest due to the excessive heating of the vast landmass. Coming back to the monsoon again. With that, the southwest monsoon sets in over the Kerala coast by the 1st of June or by the end of the May and moves swiftly to reach Mumbai and Kolkata between 10th and 13th of June. By the mid-July, the southwest monsoon engulfs the entire continent. Now, let us see how it manifests. See, this monsoon with its onset has two rain-bearing systems. First, it originates in the Bay of Bengal, causing rainfall over the plains of North India. Second is the Arabian Sea current of the southwest monsoon, which brings rain to the west coast of India. See, the monsoon winds originating over the Arabian Sea further split into three branches. Please follow the map as I explain. The first branch is where it is obstructed by the Western Ghats. These winds climb the slopes of the Western Ghats from 900 to 1200 meters, where they become cool, and as a result, the windward side of the western coastal plain receives very high rainfall ranging between 250 to 400 centimeters. After crossing the Western Ghats, these winds descend and gets heated up. This reduces the humidity in the wind, and as a result, these winds cause little rainfall east of the Western Ghats. This region of the low rainfall is also known as the rain shadow region. Another branch of Arabian Sea monsoon strikes the coast north of Mumbai. Moving along the Narmada and Tapi river valley, these winds cause rainfall in the extensive areas of central India. In addition to it, the Chota Nagpur plateau gets 15 centimeter rainfall from this part of the branch. Thereafter, they enter the Ganga plains and mingle with the Bay of Bengal branch. We shall later see about the Bay of Bengal branch. Now let us see the third branch of the monsoon winds originating over the Arabian Sea. See, the third branch of this monsoon wind strikes the Saurashtra Peninsula and the Kutch region. It then passes over the West Rajasthan and along the Aravallis, causing only a scanty rainfall over the region. In Punjab and Haryana, it too joins the Bay of Bengal branch. These two branches, reinforced by each other, cause rain in the western Himalayas. Now let us look into the Bay of Bengal branch. See, this branch strikes the coast of Myanmar and